Hello everyone. So today we are going to talk about the inguinal canal. So in these three diagrams we can see the position of inguinal canal. So what is inguinal canal? In name itself it's a canal, which means passage. So it allows the passage of structures from the abdominal cavity to this reproductive part, which are spermatic cord in male, and which another one is the round ligament in the females. So it is 2 in number in our body, and it is located antero-inferiorly and medially in the lower abdominal wall, lower anterior abdominal wall. So now let us see what is important to know in this inguinal canal is the boundary. The main thing is we have the boundaries of inguinal canal, which we have to learn very clearly, and let's draw it and learn it. So first of all, before that, let me just draw you a very short diagram of the layers of abdominal wall, anterior abdominal. So this one is the skin, and after that it is the layer of a fascia, which is also known as the camber fascia, and this is the fatty layer. And after that we have the layer of external oblique. We have the layer of external oblique, then we will have the layer of internal oblique, and then we will have the layer of transverse abdominis, and then the innermost would be the layer of transverse fascia, fascia transversalis. So what is it? From the in to out we can say this is the transverse fascia, this is transverse abdominis, and this is internal oblique, and this is external oblique. So TIA from inner to outer, we can remember it as transverse abdominis, internal oblique, and external oblique. So now let us draw the boundaries. So first of all I will draw the floor of the inguinal canal. We have got the floor. Then after I will draw the anterior wall. Then after I will draw the posterior wall, and this will make the superior wall or boundary or roof of the inguinal canal, and then we will make here the inguinal ring. So this is the layer, such as this cubic box shows us the layer of abdominal wall, which is like covering or making the boundaries of the inguinal canal. So this one is the deep inguinal ring, and this one is the superficial inguinal ring or external, and this is also known as the internal. So what makes this posterior wall then? What makes this posterior wall? So posterior wall is formed by the fascia transversalis. Fascia transversalis. After this fascia transversalis, we have got the formation of posterior wall or posterior boundary by the fascia transversalis, which allow the opening of, which consists of opening of the deep inguinal ring or the innermost or inner inguinal opening. Then we have the anterior wall. This is the anterior wall, we can see here, which is formed by the aponeurosis of external oblique muscle. We can see in this diagram. So this is external oblique muscle, and this is the aponeurosis, which is forming the anterior inguinal wall, the boundary. And then we have the floor and the roof. So let's talk about the floor first. This is the floor of the inguinal canal. This is the inguinal canal, which is formed, the floor of the inguinal canal, which is formed by the this is the floor, which is formed by the inguinal ligament, and we can see here in the diagram as well, this is the inguinal ligament passing to the floor of the inguinal canal. So this becomes the floor. Now let's see about the roof of the inguinal ligament, which is formed by the, so this one is the roof of it. So this is the roof, and it is formed by two muscles. This is the roof or superior boundary formed by transverse abdominis muscle and internal oblique muscle. So this one is the superior wall. So we saw the boundary of this inguinal canal. This is the anterior boundary, posterior boundary, floor and the roof, and medially this superior wall consists of the forms the conjoint tendon. Now let us see about the content. Content means this is the inguinal canal, which is of 3 cm and 2 cm diameter of the canal, which consists of, we can remember through this mnemonics GIRLS. So cancel this L. So we have G for genitofemoral nerve. So here we get the genitofemoral nerve. This is the ilioinguinal nerve, and then we have the round ligament only in female, and then we have the spermatic cord in male. So these are the content which can be remembered with these mnemonics. And if we want to learn the spermatic cord layers, contents, just remember DAV, artery and vein of testis, and then we have ductus deferens or vas deferens as a content of spermatic cord. So this becomes the content of the inguinal canal. Now applied aspect or clinical significance of this inguinal canal. As in the lower abdominal wall, it is the weakest point through which the abdominal content can leak or herniate through this inguinal canal or hernia. So the clinical significance would be the hernia, which is direct and indirect. If it occurs through this abdominal wall, directly through this wall, then it would be called as the direct hernia, inguinal hernia, and indirect would be the leakage or protrusion of the abdominal content through this inguinal canal, then it would be known as the indirect inguinal hernia. So let us see a bit more dissecting this diagram. Here we can see that we have the anterior wall of the anterior boundary of the inguinal canal. So see, this is the inguinal canal with this deep inguinal ring. This is the deep inguinal ring or internal ring, and this is the superficial or external inguinal ring. So external or the anterior layer is formed by the aponeurosis of external oblique muscle. Then after we have the internal, this is the posterior most layer. So it is formed by the fossa transversalis, which forms the opening of the deep inguinal ring, and which opens slightly lateral to the inferior epigastric vessels, which can be, we can observe in this diagram also, slightly lateral to the this is the opening of deep inguinal ring, inferior epigastric vessels, and lateral to it. So we have let's see here, we saw the anterior posterior boundary. Now let us see about the superior, that is the roof is formed by the transverse abdominis muscle and the internal oblique, and later it medially forms the conjoint tendon. See, so this is the transverse abdominis muscle and this is the internal oblique muscle, which forms the roof of the inguinal canal. This is the inguinal canal and this is the roof. So this becomes the superior and the roof, and now floor consists of the ekdam dense condensation, or let us say the dense fibrous layer would be formed by this floor. It forms the floor of the inguinal inguinal canal. So what is its name? This is the inguinal ligament. So inguinal ligament is formed from the aponeurosis of this external oblique muscle itself. So now we observed the layers of the abdominal wall, and then we observed about the boundaries of the inguinal canal. Then we discussed about the content, and this is the clinical aspects. So let us see if there is anything to know in the comment, so that we could